In this video, we'll learn about a method for memorizing the trigonometric ratios. Now, to do this, we'll start by drawing a right angle triangle, which I'm drawing here, and we'll consider the interior angle A, which I'm writing there. Now, we saw in the previous video that relative to the angle A, there was an opposite side, an adjacent side length, and because this is a right angle triangle, like any right angle triangle, the side length opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. Hypotenuse. Now, again, in our previous video, we defined the trigonometric ratios of this angle A as sine of A, and we saw that that was equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. We also saw that the cosine of the angle A was equal to the adjacent side length, that's the side adjacent to the angle A, divided by the hypotenuse of the triangle. And last but not least, we saw that the tangent of A, which we wrote tan of A, was equal to the opposite of A divided by the side length which is adjacent to the angle A. Now, what we're going to do, instead of having to write adjacent, opposite, hypotenuse each and every single time, we're going to use this notation. If I draw a right angle triangle again, and this angle A, we're just going to use capital letters. And in each case, for opposite, for example, we're going to use the capital letter O, which I'll just write here, capital O, for opposite the angle A. For adjacent to the angle A, I'm just going to use the capital letter A. And finally, for the hypotenuse of the triangle, we'll just use the capital letter H. Now, what we'll do is, looking at these trigonometric ratios, if we just focus on sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, and let's just look at the first letter of each of those words. The first letter of sine is S, the first letter of opposite is O, and the first letter of hypotenuse is H. And we'll write SOH. We'll do the same thing for cosine. First letter is C, the first letter of adjacent is A, and the first letter of hypotenuse is H. So that's CAH. And finally, for tangent of A, the first letter of tan is T, the first letter of opposite is O, and the first letter of adjacent is A. So that's TOA. This is what we need to remember from now on. SOH-CAH-TOA. The way this works is, let's take SO to actually illustrate how this works. When I look at SO, this tells me that I look at the first letter, S, is equal to the second letter, O, divided by the third letter, H. In other words, for any angle A inside a right angle triangle, sine of A is equal to the opposite side length, that's the side length which is opposite the angle A, divided by the hypotenuse of the triangle. Similarly, when I look at CA, this tells me that CA is telling me to calculate C, which is the cosine of an angle A, is equal to the second letter H divided by the third letter H. And so we can write cosine of any angle A is equal to adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Finally, if I look back at the top here, TOA is telling me that T is equal to O divided by A. And so for any angle A, the tangent of A is equal to the opposite side length divided by the hypotenuse. So remember, SOH-CAH-TOA is telling us each of the following things. For any one angle A inside a right angled triangle, SO is telling me that sine of A equals to opposite over hypotenuse. So that's SOH. Ka is telling me that the cosine of any angle A is equal to the adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. And the C for cosine is the first letter we see here. And finally, TOA is telling me that the tangent of any angle A, T for tangent, is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. It's worth writing out a few times, just as I'm doing here. So, CAH-TOA. And there you have it. You just learned probably the most useful trick for memorizing the different trigonometric ratios. SOH-CAH-TOA.